Remember the old statement from both the Algerian Liberation Front and the North Vietnamese Liberation Front, as a matter of fact. You can kill thousands of us. We have nowhere to go. All we have to do is wait it out. So cute, my little Hasanito. Israel announced they're hiding Hezbollah tunnels under hospitals 2 hours ago. Just 30 minutes ago, they bombed the front of a hospital in Beirut. Jesus fucking Christ. Why should they do anything different, honestly? Why should they? They could say that there's tunnels under a hospital in DC and they could bomb it, and America would be like, oh, I don't know, I guess they're right. Yeah. Great. Their Arabic spokesperson, Hezbollah keeps hundreds of millions of dollars in paper currency and gold under the coastal hospital in Haret to finance its terrorist activities. We revealed dangerous information about Hezbollah placing the shelter of the so-called Hassan Nasrallah under the Sahel hospital. Oh, God, they're fucking gearing up to blow up every goddamn hospital in Lebanon. Holy shit. I don't know what to say anymore, dude. The director of the Al Sahel Hospital, Fadi Alameh, says the Israeli allegations regarding... I don't know what this is. I don't know what these OSINT accounts are. I need like direct quotes. Yeah, they bombed a bunch of banks and they were like, these are Hezbollah banks. It's like, dog, they're banks. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Israel makes sensational allegations against Sahel Hospital in Beirut, directly a part of the Gaza playbook. Avishai Adrae, the Israeli spokesperson for Arab media, writes in a post on X that Hezbollah is storing hundreds of millions of dollars in cash and gold beneath the Sahel Hospital in Haret, alleging that these funds are earmarked to finance groups' terrorist activities. The hospital conceals secret entrances and exits leading to a shelter below, he said. Adrae goes on with the news that Israeli aircraft are currently surveilling the site and called on the Lebanese government and international organizations to recover these purportedly stolen funds and prevent their use of terrorism. In response, Fadi Alameh, the hospital's director, strongly rejected the accusations, called for the Lebanese ministry to investigate, and asserted that the Sahel hospital has no ties to any political parties. The hospital, he confirmed, had been forced to evacuate. That's where I was born, Lamau. Well, sorry. Once they fucking hit that 3D simulation, you know it's about to fucking erupt. What is this shit? Okay. This sounds like some American conspiracy theory shit. Money stashed into hospitals for terrorist funding. How stupid. I mean, it doesn't have to be smart. It does not have to be smart. It doesn't matter. Hezbollah's gold mine catches fire. Nasrallah's bunker under hospital held $500 million. Yeah, they're running with this narrative. Did you not see this one in your video feed this morning?
يعود لعائلة الشريف في مشروع بيت لاهيا. الآن يرتفع العدد إلى 22 شهيدا عبد القادر نتيجة هذه المجزرة الكبيرة بحق عدد من العائلات في محيط مسجد القسام. طبعا أحد المنازل الذي تم استهدافها هو منزل يعود لعائلة الشريف عبد القادر. هو منزل يعود لعائلة الشريف في مشروع بيت لاهيا. طبعا في هذا المنزل يتواجد عدد كبير من النازحين. عبد القادر كما تحدثنا عن مجزرة يوم أمس أن النازحين لجأوا عند الأقارب ليستقروا في هذه المنازل. لكن أيضا الآن
But now in the massacre, we're talking about 22 people killed from the initial accounts of this massacre. This is Al Jazeera journalist Anas Al-Sharif. He was reporting live on air when he found out his relatives were killed by an Israeli airstrike. I don't even want to finish this, dude. It's so dire. It's so devastating. It's
عن 22 شهيد كحصيلة أولية في هذه المجزرة.
هل هم من أقاربك؟
بالتأكيد عبد القادر.
He says, "Are those your relatives?" He says, "Indeed."
لكن الآن بالتأكيد عبد القادر هم أقاربي. المنزل المستهدف هو منزل يعود لعائلة الشريف في مشروع بيت لاهيا.
He says the home that was
وأيضاً
targeted,
منزل يعود لعائلة
and also the home that belongs to the Obeid
ومنزل
family,
يعود
and a house that
لعائلة
belongs to the
الدراوي.
Al-Darawi family.
أكثر المنازل المأهولة
The
بالسكان هو
home that had
منزل
the most
عائلة
people
الشريف حيث
in it was the
مكون
Al
من
Sharif
عدة
home,
طوابق
which had
عبد القادر.
several floors. 22 people have been killed there as a result of the Israeli airstrike on this residential square
استهداف هذا المربع السكني في منطقة مشروع بيت
known as the
لاهيا.
Beit Lahia project. Dozens of injured people and dozens of missing people. Most of them were women and children. Israel's air attack in Beit Lahia killed at least 87 people, with many missing under the rubble, and injured 40. Israel reported it was exaggerated and not as bad as being reported. This was reported in Al Jazeera. Yeah. What is this? Scoop from Barack Ravid. Israel gave the White House its demands for ending the war in Lebanon. President Biden's envoy, Amos Hochstein, is visiting Beirut on Monday to discuss possible diplomatic solution with Lebanese officials. Remember, Amos Hochstein is the guy who, alongside another Biden official, was the one who was like telling Israel to go and invade Lebanon, giving them the go-ahead. Some of the bullet points apparently include: one Israeli demand is that the IDF be allowed to engage in active enforcement to make sure Hezbollah doesn't rearm and build its military infrastructure in the areas of southern Lebanon that are close to the border. The official added that Israel also demands its Air Force have freedom of operation in Lebanese airspace. It's this exact same playbook. Then they can turn around and be like, well, you know, that there's you have to accept the occupation or else you're, you know, fucking up the peace talks. You have to accept everything on our framing. Ben-Gvir hosts a Gaza resettlement conference. Far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir leads the crowd in song at Preparing to Resettle Gaza conference, which took place over 2 days on Israel's southern border with Gaza. Ben-Gvir was greeted by eager applause from the crowd. "We are the owners of the land," he told them. "And when we act like it, this is what brings results." He repeated his call to encourage Gazans to voluntarily transfer to other countries because that land belongs to us. Let's be clear. No one can control Israel right now. An arms embargo would mean they would run out of weapons in 2026. That's bullshit, dog. That is bullshit. Because here's why it's bullshit. Because they don't have the defense capabilities without the United States of America. Okay? And not only do they not have the defense capabilities, America regularly fucking refills all of their offensive munitions as well. The idea that they would simply not run out of fucking munitions if America wasn't steadily supplying them with with armaments, with munitions, with bombs is wrong. Okay? But it doesn't even matter. The moment that America says you're done, it's over. Why? Because if they were to say you're done or else no more weapons, that means Israel will not be able to defend itself. Okay? That means it's over. It's done. Because if they still continue bombing after America says, no, you're done, then there are a shit ton of other financial pressures that America could apply to Israel. Every Israeli general and every Israeli politician knows this. Netanyahu is seen as a reasonable leader. We are not the only suppliers. We supply 70% of their fucking munitions. You are wrong. You are obtuse, either intentionally or you are just not knowledgeable on the matter. We supply 70% of their weapons, dude. We supply 70% of their weapons. 70. 70. We're not the only suppliers. It's such a funny fucking take, especially because it doesn't matter. Because when America says you're done, you're done. Okay? That's the point. Pressuring America is not the winning angle of attack. Wait, what? Yeah, I mean, this is 65.6%. Sorry, what now, liberals? I got owned. Major arms transfers volume from 2013 to 2023, 65.6% is from the United States. 4.7% is from Italy, and Italy has said that they are reconsidering their weapons transfers to begin with, and Germany supplies 30%. Germany can shoulder that load alone. Yeah, exactly. That's a delusional take. Especially considering that Italy is already saying like maybe we shouldn't be giving you guys these weapons right now without America even changing their attitude. You are out of your dang mind. America is literally creating not the permission structure, but like the damn near entirety of the social and political capital being expended to defend Israel in the global stage right now. That's it. The United States is overwhelmingly the biggest supplier of arms to Israel. In 2023, 69% of Israeli arms imports came from the U.S., according to a report into international arms transfer by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Germany was the second largest, providing 30%, followed by Italy with 0.9%. The UK, France, and Spain were among other minor contributors. The U.S. imported weapons have played a major role in Israeli military actions against Hamas and Hezbollah, the think tank reported, noting that at the end of 2023, thousands of guided bombs and missiles were delivered from the U.S. to Israel. F-35 and F-15 fighter jets were also delivered to Israel from the U.S. in January 2024. CNN analysis identified multiple instances that the U.S. manufactured munitions were used throughout the war, including strikes that killed civilians. Recently, CNN found the U.S. manufactured 2,000-pound bombs were likely used in the Israeli attack that killed Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, in Beirut. The U.S. also provides financial assistance to Israel, delivering over $130 billion in bilateral funding since 1948, according to the U.S. State Department. In 2019, the two countries signed a memorandum of understanding that ensured the U.S. would annually provide Israel with $3.3 billion from the Foreign Military Financing Program and another $500 million for missile defense. If America's role in this wasn't so important, okay, then Israel wouldn't spend hundreds of millions of dollars in PR, propaganda, and lobbying in the United States of America. They wouldn't be cutting commentary both in Hebrew and also in English. Okay? It is ridiculous. It is like so obvious. And when you refuse to recognize this reality, you are at odds with what fucking like the Israeli military members say. You're at odds with what Israeli politicians say. Benjamin Netanyahu's primary selling point is that he knows how to deal with American politicians. That is the reason. He is seen as the security candidate and also the guy who knows how to deal with America. What? How do you feel about using the same tactics as Donald Trump and Bebe in that you deflect from any on all valid criticism directed towards your controversial and perceived bigoted views, all while praising gangsters and criminals? Just wondering if you're able to see this in your rhetoric and actions. Only paying attention to what you agree with is dangerous to your mental health and your community's well-being. Can you give me some examples that aren't just utterly delusional in terms of like what what the real criticisms are directed towards my controversial and perceived bigoted views? Because depending on where people are coming from, there are plenty of insurance executives and members of the mainstream media that would consider my views on Medicare for all to be quite controversial. You might consider that to be ridiculous. I like that you also couched it as perceived bigoted views because you also secretly, or at least internally, you also understand that like I do not hold bigoted views, but maybe some of the things that I say might be perceived as bigoted because I do try to represent myself as deliberately as possible. Now, of course, I'm going to have emotional, heated moments where something might come across as like different than what I believe, but even then, you know, the settler babies comment is pretty crazy and comes across as bigoted. Yeah, I don't think that is appropriate, chatter. What are you talking about? I don't think that people should be allowed to kill settler children. Why do you think I fucking advocate for a one-state solution? Because I literally claim, openly state, that 750,000 Jews live in the West Bank, in occupied West Bank, and forcibly expelling them from this land that does not belong to Israel, that Israel is illegally occupying, would be an unimaginable harm. Baby settlers. That's crazy to fucking hear the exact opposite argument that I'm making and then claim I'm making the pro argument. So, do you care about the truth? Do you actually care about my perspective? Or do you want to just like shit smear? If you want to just like lie about my positions, then yeah, go ahead. His point was that there are settlers who are babies. You can't just go murdering settlers indiscriminately because there are babies. That is what HasanAbi said. I'm so sick of the baby settlers bullshit. I know. Anyway. When you go to dunk but don't reach the rim, yeah. Wait, you're telling me you're not in favor of murdering babies? The only baby murder I'm in favor of is abortion, baby. That's right. Abortion all the time, nonstop. You are now getting slandered on another H3HG live podcast episode. If you see unhinged shatters, now you know why. Yeah, it's fine. It happens. It's just like if I were to address some of the most common supposedly like valid criticisms launched against me, I would have to sit here and repeat my talking points over and over and over again. Okay? At that point, I urge you to be charitable and go seek out this information in the readily available format that is provided to you. Go to my fucking YouTube page and watch a single fucking video on the matter, and you will very quickly arrive at your own conclusion. Okay? That's it. They didn't listen to you the 14 times you said it. Why would listen to the 15th time? Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Once again. Are you excited for the start of the NBA season tomorrow? Sure. Wait, what? Breaking 4 people killed, including a child, and 24 wounded is the Israeli strike on the premises of Beirut's main public hospital, Rafik Hariri University Hospital. This is just now from Iraq bureau chief of of Reuters, Timur Azari. Ay, ay, ay. They targeted the banks yesterday, and they brought forward that same classic, like they brought forward their same classic fucking argument. Hezbollah's gold mine catches fire. They're saying that there's a bunker full of money under the hospital now, and tunnels under the hospital, which means it's worthy of striking. Will there ever be a moment where there's a bunker full of money under the hospital now, and tunnels under the hospital, which means it's worthy of striking? Will there ever be a moment where people say, hey, you guys said this every single time you struck a hospital and then provided zero evidence after the fact? Is there a point where, the rest of the world will just go, enough, like, enough? Yes, I saw. The CNN article is insane. He got out of Gaza, but Gaza did not get out of him. Israeli soldiers returning from war struggle with trauma and suicide. Now, this is a very common article that is written specifically about like IDF vets and shit in regular frequency. I'm just shocked that like because the genocide has gone on for 12 months, that while it's still happening, they've already started writing these articles. Americans do it too. There is only one. There's only one thing that I find particularly interesting in this, which is the mental health toll. Mizrahi deployed to Gaza on October 8th last year and was tasked with driving a D9 bulldozer a 62-ton armored vehicle that can withstand bullets and explosives. He was a civilian for most of his life, working as a manager at an Israeli construction company. After witnessing the massacres committed by Hamas, he felt he needed to fight. The reservist spent 186 days in the enclave until he sustained injuries to his knee, followed by hearing damage in February when a rocket-propelled grenade struck his vehicle, his family said. He was pulled out of Gaza for treatment, and in April was diagnosed with PTSD, receiving weekly talk therapy. His treatment did not help. They didn't know how to treat them soldiers. Jenny, who lives in the Israeli Ma'ale Adumim settlement in the occupied West Bank, said, they, soldiers, said the war was so different. They saw things that were never seen in Israel. For the record, this is part of the reason why a lot of the fucking dudes who tour Gaza end up joining Breaking the Silence. Oh, Maya is here. Okay, hold on. Doors open. Fuck, I forgot. And yeah, we're gonna move on to some less sad stuff. We're gonna do a little fun reset from this. Hello. Yeah. When Mizrahi was on leave, he suffered from bouts of anger, sweating, insomnia, and social withdrawal, his family said. He told his family that only those who were in Gaza with him could understand what he was going through. He always said, no one will understand what I saw. Jenny wondered if her son killed someone and couldn't handle it. He saw a lot of people die. Maybe he even killed someone, but we don't teach our children to do things like this. So when he did this, something like this, maybe it was a shock for him. Guys that can, Mizrahi's friend and co-driver, the Bulldozer, provided further insights to their experience in Gaza. We saw very, very, very difficult things that are difficult to accept. The former soldier has spoken publicly about the psychological trauma endured by Israeli troops in Gaza. In a testimony to the Knesset Israeli parliament in June, Zaken said that on many occasions, soldiers had to run over terrorists, dead and alive, in the hundreds. Everything squirts out, he added. Zaken says he can no longer eat meat. Now, if you have no interest, if you have no fucking interest in understanding the humanity of the people that are being bulldozed over like Rachel Corrie was, okay, then yeah, you look at this and you go, the only people that are human in this story are the people driving the bulldozer and not the fucking people that they're driving over. Perhaps that's the reason why the trigger warning for this article is not harrowing, gruesome acts of violence against an entire population that's being genocided, but instead a trigger warning for suicide. Because CNN understands, just like we do, that the victims, those who are in the crosshairs of Israel, are not human. They're simply terrorists. Okay? Zaken says he can no longer eat meat as it reminds him of the gruesome scenes he witnessed from his bulldozer in Gaza and struggles to sleep at night. The sound of explosions ringing in his head. When you see a lot of meat outside and blood, both ours and theirs, then it really affects you when you eat. He maintains that the vast majority of those he encountered were terrorists. The civilians we saw, we stopped them and brought them water to drink, and we let them eat our food. He recalled, adding, and even in such situations, Hamas fighters would shoot at them. There's no such thing as citizens, he said, referring to the ability of Hamas fighters to blend with civilians. This is terrorism. Like, the guy is literally talking about how he exploded people by driving his fucking bulldozer over them and then saying, oh, there were some civilians. But then he immediately says, oh, there are no civilians, actually. This is terrorism. Yeah, not what you did. The real reason why they are experiencing PTSD is because no human being should be tasked with engaging in such gruesome acts of violence. But the other reason why they're experiencing PTSD is because deep down inside, they do recognize that they're exploding human beings. And no human, regardless of how fucking primed they are into assuming that these guys are all enemies that must be fucking brought to heel, will be able to experience normal life after doing that sort of thing. When soldiers do encounter civilians, however, many face a moral dilemma. According to the IDF medic who spoke to CNN anonymously, there was a very strong collective attitude of distrust among Israeli soldiers towards the Palestinians in Gaza. I wonder why. There was a notion that Gazans, including civilians, are bad, that they support Hamas, that they help Hamas, that they were hiding ammunition, the medic said. In the field, however, some of these attitudes change when you actually see Gazan civilians in front of your eyes. The IDF has said that it does all it can to minimize civilian casualties in Gaza by including sending text messages, making phone calls, and dropping evacuation leaflets when to warn civilians ahead of attacks. It's exactly like Vietnam. Sometimes civilians attack us. Instead of thinking, maybe I'm the bad guy, all civilians become the enemy. Yes. I've read about the lack of morale in the Israeli battalions due to them having to go to the same points in Gaza, like we see now with northern Gaza being attacked again. And how the soldiers go to a house they've been to over and over again as a base, and there's booby traps everywhere. Each time they return, and clearly the battalions really haven't eliminated anyone. Israelis aren't terrorists at all. Brother, how can you look at the output of any military whatsoever that so deliberately and so deliberately engages in like insane amounts of violence? I assume that guy was being sarcastic. We just watched someone talk about their crippling PTSD because they ran over someone with a fucking tank, dude. Yeah. CNN tried to do a sympathy piece on IDF soldiers, and then halfway through the article, you find out this guy was a D9 bulldozer driver that regularly drove over people while they were alive. Here is I Really Hate You, BM. Same D9 operator, Guy Zaken, with his friend Eliran Mizrahi, who killed himself recently, were interviewed in April. They said they destroyed 5,000 houses of terrorists, but when asked, how did you know they were terrorists, they clarified that every house is a terrorist house. This is the guy that killed himself, I think one of them is. What is the noise in the end? I missed this. Why is this noise in the end? An explosive device that we drove over while we made a video. Another one of the many surprises they made for us there. How many houses did you demolish? You wrote somewhere 1,500? We got to 5,000. 5,000? Yes, and more. Zama 271. It's documented, proven. The whole unit. Our company. You two. We stopped counting. 5,000 houses. Of terrorists, of course. Someone goes, the anchor goes, how do you know it's terrorists? We had a lot of, there's no house where there isn't a surprise waiting for you. There's no such thing as a house you go into and there's nothing there. Yeah, dog. They are defending their homes from you. Like, what do you mean? Of course they are going to do, like, oh my God. Oh. Like, you have to think about this. Like, the pivotal attitude shift must occur at a simple point. If someone is coming with a bulldozer after blowing up your entire city block, if someone's coming with a bulldozer and you're about to evacuate, do you leave a surprise for the people? If your answer is no, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, it is... like, I don't understand how people can just, like be so callous in their indifference to human lives. It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any fucking sense. Wow. We were running around with weapons and breaking and entering and destroying people's fucking houses, and they weren't too fond of us is crazy. Like, yeah, why the fuck would they welcome you, dog? What are you talking about? You're killing a shit ton of civilians. And also, I think the guy is from a family that is a settler in the West Bank. Notice CNN chose to use childhood footage, not of them, of the hundreds of people this Israeli soldier killed, but of him as a child. The frame is inside his family home in an illegal West Bank settlement. Yeah. I think it's important to notice, and as many people are noticing, that this framing itself is like already setting the standard for the inhumanity of the victims of Israel and the only humanity of the perpetrators of violent actions, which, by the way, ironically, The Onion wrote a piece on as well. IDF soldier recounts harrowing heroic war story of killing 8-month-old child. CNN published a piece today about Israeli soldiers returning from Gaza. One bulldozer driver testifies that they drove over Palestinians dead and alive in the hundreds. It's crazy that, like, this conversation is framed around the psychological trauma of the soldier that fucking drove over hundreds of Palestinian bodies. But because he says they're terrorists, it's okay, I guess. The IOF are inept in general, too. One of the guys in my DSA is an anti-Zionist Israeli retired journalist. The Israeli occupying force killed his wife, her mother, and his children some years back. I can't get the archive link to work, though. The IDF killed my family, but refused to take responsibility. U.S.-born Brian Atinsky, who lost his wife, children, and mother-in-law in a horrific crash. The military truck is campaigning to change Israelis' behavior behind the wheel. But yeah, there is a morale loss among many of the people. It is not an accident that the overwhelming majority of Breaking the Silence IDF veterans are comprised of people who actually went in and sieged Gaza prior. Okay? Do you understand? Based on interviews with soldiers and families across units, is described as a suppressed but growing phenomenon. This is from Hamacom. Quiet and muted refusal. Regular fighters are no longer willing to continue fighting. We don't understand what we're doing here. From the army to the commando brigade, from Gavati to the paratroopers, more and more fighters from all infantry units testify that the erosion and opacity of the IDF left them no choice but to refuse. The piece opens with a striking anecdote. This is from senior fellow at CI Policy, Sina Tusi, Center for International Policy. The center opens with a striking anecdote. In September, the Nahal Brigade began its 11th round of combat in Gaza, but out of a platoon of 30 soldiers, only 6 showed up. The rest claimed medical exemptions. I call it refusal and rebellion, says the mother of one soldier. The wards are empty. Everyone who is not dead or injured is mentally damaged. There are very few left who return to fight, and they are not completely healthy either. Remember the old statement from both the Algerian Liberation Front and the North Vietnamese Liberation Front, as a matter of fact. You can kill thousands of us. We have nowhere to go. All we have to do is wait it out. That's why Palestinians say that our existence is resistance. 現在係啊，放入放東風呢，先做開嘅暗書冇不到飛。